What is up, guys? Here with the 39th shelf of my action movie collection, starting with The Marine with John Cena. This was actually a real solid action movie, considering. Robert Patrick was a great movie villain, just like he was in Terminator. Helped put John Cena over the top for this movie. Without Robert Patrick, I don't think this movie would have been as good. So, but still a solid watch. Then we have Spy Game with Robert Redford and Brad Pitt, directed by Tony Scott, who's one of my favorite directors. Solid movie. I enjoyed this very much. Didn't like it as much as The Last Castle, but still very, very enjoyable. Worth checking out if you haven't seen it before. And then we have The Last Castle, which I think was better than Spy Game, but an amazing cast for this movie and a different type of movie than I would expect to see Robert Redford in, which is what made this very enjoyable. Then we have Point Break with Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze, which is, of course, a classic. Probably one of the best old school action movies that didn't have one of the big three in it. So, for sure, a Keanu Reeves movie worth checking out. Then we have Never Back Down. This was one of those movies I saw when I was a teenager. Didn't really know a lot about MMA at the time. But definitely kind of a mix with Rocky and all that stuff, only with younger teenage actors in it. Although Cam Gignett was a lot older than everyone else in this movie, but great movie. Never seen the sequels. If you've seen the sequels to this before, let me know if they're any good or not. Then we have Death Race with Jason Statham. Absolutely loved this movie. Can't say enough good things about it. I know there's the Death Race 2000 movie, but I don't think, I think it's a remake and title only, I believe. I've not seen it. Comments down below if you've seen Death Race 2000, if this is really a reboot of it or not. Then we have Death Race 2. I actually enjoyed this movie a lot for a straight to DVD or straight to Blu-ray movie. It was very well done. Seemed like it had just as big of a budget as the first one. Great cast. It seemed big on screen just as the first one did. So very much enjoyed this. Luke Goss did an amazing job in this movie as well. Then we have Death Race 3 Inferno, which, just like the second one, Luke Goss did an absolutely amazing job with this movie. And it seemed big just like the first two did, so didn't drop the ball at all. Absolutely enjoyed this movie. Then we have Into the Blue with Paul Walker and Jessica Alba. This was a pretty entertaining movie. It wasn't like the best movie, but, it was very entertaining, especially if you're a fan of Fast and Furious, to see Paul Walker in something. So, fun watch. Then we have Stealth with Josh Lucas, Jessica Biel, and Jamie Foxx. I'm a big fan of Josh Lucas. I think he's an underrated actor. Just his cool demeanor on screen is amazing. Wish I could see him in more. But yeah, this is definitely from back when this year was it 2003 or 2005. But yeah, this was a real good year for movies right here, 2005. Then we have The Negotiator. I consider this one to be a classic. The cast for this movie is second to none. I love the whole conspiracy, keep you guessing kind of nature of this movie. Kevin Spacey he stole this movie. He was so good in this movie. Even though he was a supporting actor to Samuel L. Jackson, he stole this movie 100%. Then we have The Specialist with Sylvester Stallone, one of the big three action stars. Wasn't my favorite of the Sylvester Stallone movies, but still a very solid watch. I don't know. It just, there was better movies he had done, but still, like I said. Then we have Assassins with Sylvester Stallone and Antonio Banderas. I enjoyed this movie a lot. Very well done. Good big cast. Seemed big as far as its production values and scope of the story. So Richard Donner directed it, so you can't go wrong with that. And also written by the Wachowskis. So lots of things going for it. Then we have probably one of my favorite Sylvester Stallone movies out there, and that is Demolition Man. I love to go back and watch this movie. I mean, the cast, the scope, the production values, the story. I wish, I don't know. There's rumors of there being a sequel to this movie. I don't know if I want to see it now. I probably would have loved to have seen it back in the 90s when everyone was in their prime. So, I mean, it might be a little too late to see a sequel to this, but back in the 90s, I probably really enjoyed it. Then we have Cradle to the Grave with Jet Li and DMX. Can't go wrong with a good Jet Li movie, especially these American martial arts movies that Jet Li started doing at this time with this director. So worth checking out for sure. Then we have Ballistic, X vs. Sever with Antonio Banderas and Lucy Liu. This movie is violent. I really enjoy this movie. It's kind of like an early take on John Wick in a way. I mean, it's just so over the top. It's so gruesome and violent. It's awesome. If you're a John Wick fan, you'll love this movie. Then we have Get Carter with Sylvester Stallone. I'd probably put this in the specialist category. It wasn't his best work. He did this after he did Daylight, and he didn't work for a while after, or not after Daylight. It was after Copland. I'm sorry. He didn't work for a while after Copland, and whether or not that was because Copland was considered a flop or not, I don't know, or because he had to take time to try to lose all the weight he gained for Copland. But this was not his best outing. Then we have Three Kings with George Clooney, Mark Wahlberg, and Ice Cube. This was before all of them struck it huge, I guess you can say. Or this was when they were just starting to strike it huge. But it was an interesting movie for sure to see these guys in, especially George Clooney at the time. David O. Russell made this movie. Not a huge fan of his, but this was probably one of his better movies. Then we have Fallen with Denzel Washington and John Goodman. I'm not a huge fan of religious type movies, but this was really well done, and I wouldn't say this was necessarily a religious movie, but it was very, very interesting and worth checking out. The cast was phenomenal. The soundtrack was even good for this movie. I mean, check it out for sure. Then we have Training Day with Denzel Washington and Ethan Hawke. Classic that Denzel Washington won his Oscar for. Great movie. I just laughed when I saw that Denzel Washington won his Oscar for this movie. I mean, he 100% deserved it because it's 100% different than any character he's played before. But it's just awesome to see an action movie win an Oscar. Then we have Out of Time with Denzel Washington, a great whodunit, keep you guessing type of murder mystery thriller. It seemed like it was kind of low budget, but it was in the theater if I remember correctly. But yeah, it's a fun movie. Check it out. Then we have Man on Fire with Denzel Washington, directed by Tony Scott. I love Tony Scott, but For some reason, this movie didn't strike well with me. I think Tony Scott's done better. Maybe it was just the story or the setting or whatever that didn't really get me all into this movie. Or Mark Anthony being in it. I don't know. Then we have Paparazzi with Cole Hauser. Interesting movie produced by Mel Gibson. Pretty good cast. You know, not the biggest budget, but very interesting. Different type of movie than what you had seen at the time. Just for that reason alone, you know, worth checking out. Cole Hauser does a pretty good job at carrying the movie on his own, considering he's not a leading person. Then we have Miami Vice for Michael Mann. I like this movie, but when I went to see it in the theater, I was disappointed because the trailer made it look like Bad Boys in a way, and I had not seen the TV series at that point. So I went into the theater expecting Bad Boys, and it was not that. But once I saw the TV series and all that stuff and went back and watched this movie again, it was a solid watch. I guess I was just disappointed because of missed expectations from the trailer, I guess you can say. And then lastly, we have Lakeview Terrace. This movie is messed up. Samuel L. Jackson does absolutely phenomenal in this movie. Not a huge fan of Patrick Wilson, but he does a great job in this movie as well. So does Kerry Washington. Talk about, well, I wouldn't say corrupt cops, but messed up characters, I guess you can say, skewed characters. This is the movie right here. I mean, oh man, I can't even describe this movie. It's one of those ones you have to see to believe. But that does it for this shelf. If you like content like this, please like and subscribe. Your support is much appreciated. I'm also over on Letterboxd. The link to that is in the profile description of this channel. Otherwise, until next time, have a good one, guys.